that's what you have over everybody else to get in that door. That's why
there's players getting some pretty amazing results just with this kind of thing. Because I mean, really what you're teaching is
it is unbelievable how unprepared or how naive you are, or some people are, when it comes to
hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. Welcome to a show that's for you, that works so hard for your money. And you're now ready for your money to start working harder for you today. You want to become work optional, where you work because you want to, not because you have to. And more than just about getting rich, it's about living a rich life. Because as you are blessed financially, you now have a greater capacity to create a ripple effect and bless the lives of those around you. Thank you for tuning in today, guys. Appreciate you guys being a part of this show. Again, the fact you guys have been binging on these episodes and sharing with others. And yes, I know now we've got 2 YouTube channels. We got this Money Ripples podcast channel, and we've got the Money Ripples channel as well. So be sure to subscribe and check those out today. All right, so now I want to bring on, guys, I have here Brad Leggett. Now, Brad, if you guys know, if you're a football fan, you might know Brad, right? Especially if you're a Saints fan. Brad actually played for the Saints in the back in the 90s, as well as the Detroit Lions. And in fact, he was the first one to be the father and son combo to be playing in football at the same time on the same team. So kind of like what I said to him in the email, I was like, you're like the Ken Griffey of football, apparently. So anyways, really cool to have Brad here. What's really cool about Brad is that with his story, since then, this guy has built multiple businesses, has become very successful in business, affiliate marketing, a nutrition company as well that he has ownership in. He even has his own podcast as well that we'll talk about, the Pro Players Business Network. Try to say that 10 times fast, right? Pro Players Business Network podcast that you guys can definitely check out. Excited to have him on today. So Brad, welcome to our show.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for your time. And just to touch on something you just said, I'm a big believer in working smarter, not harder. So it falls right into everything you're talking about. And to clarify one little thing, my father was one of the original Saints back in 1967, 68. And then I played in the 90s. So we didn't play together. Thank goodness. We were 25 years apart, but we were the first in franchise history, which is a cool little tidbit.
Gotcha. I mean, he could have played, but it probably would have been pretty brutal on him, I'm sure.
Yeah, he was banged up from 12 years in the NFL and didn't move very well.
Yeah, I bet. And he was coaching after that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so my dad played 12 years in the NFL, first round draft choice for the Chicago Bears in 1957 out of LSU, part of the original Monsters of the Midway. And then after 12 years playing, then he coached 25 years in the NFL. I missed his playing days, but I was around for his coaching days and would go to hang around training camp all the time when he was with the Raiders primarily, and so a big Raider fan.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I'm sure there's several people on here that are Raiders fans or hate Raiders fans. They're probably one of the two, I'm sure.
That's about right.
Now, I wasn't planning on asking you this question, but what were some of the things that, as you grew up, I mean, you're seeing your father coach. I mean, how did that influence you, not just as a player, but as a person? Like, what were the things that you kind of picked up on early on that really influenced your life?
Well, I tell you what, that's a real interesting story, and that's my why. So my why throughout my years has been based on my childhood. So my father, when I was coming up, was about 350 pounds. His knees were a train wreck. His shoulder, I mean, he couldn't do anything. So I knew when I was in my teens, I didn't want to be like that. So fitness and training has always been a passion of mine. So that's why I'm part owner in a nutrition company. I've had nutrition businesses in the past. And the other why, and that's relevant to nowadays, is I saw the struggles my father had. I saw it on the family side with my mother and my siblings. And then when I started to play football, I played at USC in the late 80s and then in the early 90s for 3 years primarily with the Saints teammates, and saw their struggles and things they go through. So I've always been very passionate about helping former players, families, etc. And that's why I started Pro Players Business Network, to give guys an opportunity after their playing days. You know, if you think about it, your life in the NFL is very short unless you're a Tom Brady or somebody like that. And the people that came before this generation now, they didn't make any money. And when football it ends for you, it's very rarely ends on your terms. You're either hurt or you're no longer of use to the team. Then you got to figure out what the hell you want to do, because your passion till then, and the only thing you ever want to do is play football. Now you got to figure out the rest of your life. And so a lot of guys struggle with that, and I did as well. And you go through this initially when it ends for you, you go through kind of you have a bitter taste in your mouth towards the NFL because of how it ends. And then you get over it, and then you embrace it because you realize that that's what you have over everybody else to get in that door. That's why, fast forward now to Pro Players Business Network. That's why I've had so much success helping former players monetize their contact, because now they have a name. They can get that appointment. They can reach out to that contact and leverage it and get a commission or put a deal together.
And they don't all have to become financial advisors or insurance agents, right?
Exactly. They always say that your Rolodex is, or your contact list is your most important and valuable thing you have, that in your name.
Absolutely. What's one thing that you wish you knew as a player that now you know in hindsight?
My father always told me that it was a business, and when you're playing it, you're still thinking it's a game. And that's probably the biggest thing, is how cutthroat it really is. And look, I've heard there's horror stories about teams just getting somebody, pushing them back off of injured reserve just to get them on film so they can cut them. And, nowadays it's a little different. Nowadays it's players are much more protected than, back in the 90s and 80s and 70s.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point, right? It really is a business in and of itself. Did you watch a lot of players? I mean, even now, I'm sure you're probably even talking to players that are either currently in the NFL or even just retired recently, right? Whether by forced retirement or by choice. How unprepared are they when they come out of the NFL?
So currently through my business, Pro Players Business Network, I reach 15,000 retired players through a monthly newsletter. And
Wow.
I push out opportunities, never where people have to play to part, to be involved. Just get involved with and leverage your contact, right? And I tell you, the amazing thing to me is, one, on LinkedIn, that you don't mention that you played in the NFL. That to me is just mind blowing, that you wouldn't put that in your, you can do like a little subject line, what you're doing, that you don't embrace it. You don't put that. And I tell you what, I do a lot of Zoom calls, and seeing guys on Zoom calls, they don't have their name down, so you don't know who the heck it is. Number one, they're walking around, or I got guys that take, changing. It's just so unprofessional. It just blows my mind. There was one business appointment. One of my partners went with them to it. They showed up in sweats to a business meeting, and so you hear this, and you're like, it is unbelievable how unprepared or how naive you are, or some people are, when it comes to business and how you present yourself.
So it's really, you're trying to train them almost like they're coming out of high school, right?
You know what? It's uncharted waters for them. And look, I'm far from an expert. There's just little certain things that I know are very effective, and I try to help them with that. And look, everybody's got their journey, and it's just a matter of being at the right time at the right place.
No, I know a lot of people would probably look at these players and say, wow, like what it would be like to have like that kind of career, get paid so well. Like, man, if my life were like that, it'd be so great, right? Because we get people that are anywhere from business owners that are maybe small business owners trying to start out, to anywhere maybe they're more viable or scaling their business. They could be middle managers, working as employees, right? Where they feel like they're kind of capped at what they can make. And a lot of people watching this show, they're kind of looking at this like, hey, how do I escape that rat race, right? How do I get to the point where I don't have to keep, in their own way, destroying their own body, or, burning up all their time, their good years of their life, having to work hard so that they can maybe have some sort of retirement. Do you find that a lot of players are kind of in their own rat race?
Oh, absolutely. And look, it's a big misconception when, oh, you made so much money, you never have to work again. That's very rare. Now, nowadays they get paid a lot more. So, you go back to the 90s and before that, all of those guys have to work, unless you're a Joe Montana or some national figure. The
Right.
one thing that I've learned in my business, Pro Players Business Network, is sure I have some national guys in there that are nationally known, but primarily these guys are regionally known, and regionally they've got a lot of juice. They can get into a door, they can set a meeting, and so forth. So, the one thing I always stress with people is take advantage of what you have, and it's all who you know and who you can get access to, and having the right thing to bring to them.
How do you help them decide like which direction to go? Like for example, I mean, because obviously they could do all kinds of things with that kind of Rolodex, right? I mean, what's the way to kind of help guide them along to find that thing, so to
Well,
speak, for them?
Well, what I do in my newsletter is I push out different opportunities
Mhm.
where and my rules that I push out are I never want to touch money. You're contracted up directly with the company, not with me. Never any pay to play opportunities. I don't promote network marketing or multi-level marketing programs, and things where it's nothing more than making a very warm introduction. Right? You don't need to. There's an old analogy. Some people want to know what time it is. Some people want to know how the clock is made. You don't need to
Mhm.
know how the clock is made. You just need to know enough to set an appointment and go and do what is required to do that. And
Yeah.
so I don't have decide where they go, what hole they fit in, or I just push out opportunities. And perfect example, this last month's newsletter, I pushed out an opportunity in wound care. So if you knew people in the medical space, mobile wound care nurses, podiatrists, that kind of thing,
Mm.
reply to this. Also pushed out doctors' offices. If you know orthopedics or any kind of doctor's office, got something for them. And then the third thing I pushed out was if you wanted opportunities to be sent to you, right? Something so simple as that. So three
Yeah.
different buckets, and really both the doctors and the wound care feed the same thing. So those lists kind of overlap, but that's what I pushed out last month.
And you were telling me before we went on the air, there's players getting some pretty amazing results just with this kind of thing. Because I mean, really, what you're teaching is something I've brought up on this podcast before, which is there's a lot of people trying to put in labor, like their human capital. But one forgotten type of capital that many people forget about is relationship capital, right? Where it doesn't require money to make money with that, and a lot of times there's a lot of leverage that people overlook, and that's
That
exactly what you're talking about here.
that's all it is who you
Yeah.
know and who you can get access to. I always think that I'm about one person removed from anywhere I want to go,
Mhm.
and a lot, and everybody that's listening, your most valuable thing is who you know and who they might know to get you to that next person. And so it's just a matter of having some direction, right?
Yeah.
Finding the right thing that's vetted, that one of the things always do is I do a complete background check through the NFL. So make sure that whoever I do business with, there's nothing in their background that's shady, and then go through the check the boxes, right? Make sure that I always try to find something proprietary, something that's residual, and make sure that there's always an incentive program where you're incentivized to bring in others. Sure, you can bring in businesses direct and you'll make more money, but
Mhm.
also you know a lot of people, so you bring somebody else in, now you're tapping into their network, and you can monetize that as well. So those are kind of the things I try to focus on when I pick a program.
And there are options for people where they say, "Hey, I don't," like you said, they don't want to see how the clock works. They just want to know the time. But they're just like, "I'm just going to be a connector. I'm going to connect someone, this person I know, this doctor, to this person over here in this business, and just be a connector." Is there that option too?
That primarily, that's all it is.
Oh, okay. So they don't even
Yeah.
have to again become the expert in
And
that
that
arena. They're just making introductions.
well, with the latest program and the main focus I'm doing now in this wound care thing, it would
Yeah.
take 6 months to a year to understand this, where you can talk about it. We don't want that.
Yeah.
We because of what I have access to, we were able to put a program together with the second largest skin graft company in the United States, and all we want is to make warm introductions a certain way. We have a system in place, and then you can be on the calls or not. It's up to you. I try to make it very simple for these guys, but these guys also are not just former players; they're also regular people. So
Yeah.
I try to get everybody involved because everybody's got contacts.
So this obviously you're focused towards players. Is this something that even other people can do outside of the profession?
Chris, I want you to do this. There we go. Yeah,
There we
and
go.
look, so with the stuff I'm pushing out now, if I tell you that the lowest hanging fruit is the podiatrist, because podiatrists are dealing with diabetic foot ulcers, and that's one person making the decision for a facility, and on that account alone, you could be making 25 grand a month.
Yeah.
This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Wow. Tell us more. Like what exactly is it doing?
Well, let me take a step back. So 8 years ago, I started Pro Players Business Network, and I started this because two of my teammates from USC committed suicide. Hall of Famer Junior Seau and Scott
Mhm.
Ross. They unfortunately had some head trauma issues, and things didn't work out for them. About
Yeah.
the same time, the NFL concussion litigation was just starting up. One of the law firms reaches out to me. I've always been a connector, and they asked me if I could help get them clients. I was able to get them 1,500 clients, thinking that they was going to help so many people. Lawyers are who primarily made the money. But I
Yeah.
built an email list of about 6,000 former players at the time. And as I'm talking to guys, just like I'm talking to you, oh, you do this? Oh, you should talk to such and such. They do something similar. You might have some synergy between you guys. And I found myself doing that over and over again. And I reached out to the NFL alumni and said, hey, you guys should do a business networking site, because I'm connecting guys here that are doing business, and I think there's something here. And they never
Mhm.
got back to me after 3 emails. So that's when
Wow.
I started Pro Players Business Network. And so that was 8 years ago. And so now I reach about 15,000 former players and a lot of just regular people through
Mhm.
my newsletter. I forgot what your question was.
Well,
I got
actually,
sidetracked.
you kind of said it right there. I mean, because I was talking about even people outside the network, outside the profession, right? And you were saying that obviously there's people that follow your newsletter. So is that the best way for people to follow you if they want to learn like what kind of opportunities there are like this?
Yeah, absolutely. And we could drop my email into your feed or something, and have people
Mhm.
email me direct if they want to learn about this. And I tell you what, if you have relationships that are doctors, we got opportunities that are vetted, background checked through the NFL security, that are real. And like I said, you'll be papered up directly with the companies, not with me. And you don't have to go to medical school to learn how to talk about it. It's really something how this has grown, and it blows my mind every day.
So pretty much the qualification is if you know people, this is like a no-brainer, is what you're
No
saying.
brainer. No
Yeah.
brainer. Giving
Love
you
it.
an opportunity to leverage what you have, which is your contacts.
Again, that forgotten capital. So many people forget about, right?
It's
Most people
it's
show up
the
to this show, they think about the financial capital, like how do I take my savings, turn it to passive income through real estate or whatever it might be. But you're saying, hey, come on, we got relationships. You don't even have to be the one doing the work. This is in a lot of ways kind of I would call this more like residual income in a lot of ways, right? Rather than passive, but it's similar.
100%, and that's one of the criteria that when I push stuff out is making sure it's a residual.
I
So
love it,
once it's
man.
set, it's kind of a set it and forget it.
And how long can that relationship go for?
Whew. We're rolling out some stuff on the medical side. Sure, we're starting with wound care, but we're about to start getting into biologics, which is exosomes and different things like that, which is an offshoot of stem cells. But that's going to go on for years.
Wow. And you said you got guys in the, former players are making 100,000 plus a month just doing this kind of
Well,
work,
when I
literally
was
just being a
pushing,
connector.
yes, when I was pushing out ERC, Employee
Mhm.
Retention
Oh
Credit
yeah.
Program, that was hot and heavy a year or so ago.
Mhm.
I had guys making 100 grand a year, yeah, or excuse me, a month.
That's incredible. Well, that's
And
awesome.
all they were doing is making introductions.
Awesome. Well, if people want to email you, reach out, like what's the best way to do that?
The easiest way is Brad, BRAD, at Pro Players Business Network, all one word.com. And that's also my website, proplayersbusinessnetwork.com.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes, of course, just so people can follow you. Any last piece of advice you would give? Like any big things that you've kind of learned, now you've been out of the league and now you've kind of, built this network. What's one last piece of advice you would give people?
Well, I tell you what, Chris, I just listening to you in our pre-call and this, man, what you're doing is so valuable and so important. We have, with the way the economy is right now, we have to do things on the side. and we have to do other things to create wealth, right? And so, to your point, the last thing we think about is our contacts, and that's the first thing I always think about. Who I can get access to and bring something of value to them. So the one thing I would say to people that are listening is your contacts and your name are the most important thing you got.
So true.
And you can leverage that.
Great advice, Brad. Appreciate it. Well, everybody, we'll put that in the show notes there. You can email Brad, go visit his website. Hey, if this is something that spoke to you, you're saying, you know what, this is something that's untapped potential in me and my situation that maybe I haven't even considered or looked into yet, or maybe you haven't considering it, go reach out to Brad and see how you could best, how you can best create value for him. Well, not even just for him, but for yourself too. So guys, the challenge is this, that you can be a hearer of the word, or you can be a doer as well. Doers are the ones that get it done. Go and make it a wonderful, prosperous week. We'll see you later.